I've played Ballistic since the mode released back in December. While the mode has definitely received some changes since, there's still a lot missing from the mode, including one problem that could mark the end of the mode within the next year. Now I want to say that I'm making this video not to trash Ballistic. I genuinely do enjoy the mode and have had a lot of fun playing it, but there are problems with the mode that need to be addressed. So take this video as what I hope can be constructive criticism and not just me bashing the game. So without further ado, let's talk about some of the problems plaguing Ballistic before we dive into its one big game-ending problem. I want to start off with the lack of updates. Now before I get a bit deeper into what I mean, I will say there have been more updates to Ballistic lately compared to when it launched, where we essentially had no big changes to the mode for the first few months. We were stuck on one map for a while, that being Skyline 10, and had no new weapon additions until the drum gun eventually came along. Eventually, we did get 2 new maps, with those being Hammerfall and Storm Chaser Cove. The problem is it took 4 months to get 2 new maps, not even finished ones. Now I know there's a whole argument with shell maps being in Ballistic, and I'll get into that in a minute. But after that big update, we had nothing for roughly another month. That second big update brought us another new shell map and some other big changes to the game, but since then, we haven't had any updates. There was a promise of an update later this month, which we'll see if that's true or not, but I do hope you're starting to see my point. The game isn't getting nearly enough updates to thrive. I understand that Ballistic is technically in an early access stage, as they like to call it, but the mode is going to have some difficulty surviving another year into the future if we don't start getting more consistent updates. If you take a look at my video back in December where I originally reviewed Ballistic, I mentioned that it was averaging about 50,000 concurrent players at the time. Since then, the mode only averages about 5,000 concurrent players. That's a 90% loss of average concurrent players since I made that video back in December. A big part of that 90% loss was the lack of updates. For months, we didn't have any, and when we eventually started getting them, it had become too little, too late to stop the bleeding. Even with a rough schedule of an update once a month, it's not enough to slow the decay of the player base in my opinion. I don't want this mode to end up like Rocket Racing, where development is seized, as I think this mode has potential to carve out a space in this genre to have a decently sized community. If we can get to a point where we can get updates at least every couple weeks, I think that would be great for the mode. I'm not expecting a new map every update or even a new weapon. We just need the game to continuously be polished to get out of the early access tag it has and let it blossom into its full potential. Enough said about the lack of updates. Let's talk about the shell maps that we have received in the few updates we've gotten so far. As I mentioned earlier, we have gotten 3 new maps since the launch of Ballistic, with those being Hammerfall, Storm Chaser Cove, and the newest being Cinderwatch. What do these maps have in common, you may ask? Well, they're all shell maps. For those watching this video who don't know what a shell map is, or if you haven't been watching my Ballistic update videos, which you totally should, a shell map, as they define it themselves, is a map without the environmental detail. Essentially, it's not polished with detail, unlike Skyline 10, which is polished. When you load onto the shell maps, you can literally see that it looks like they threw together a bunch of presets, didn't coat them with any paint, and called it a day. That's exactly what it is. The reasoning in doing this was so they could give us new maps and alter them as they further developed them to align with player feedback. Now I'll say I actually like this approach to a degree. There have been some alters to the maps, such as Storm Chaser Cove, where they changed the design to make it a more balanced experience, whether playing on the attacker side or defender side. The original map design made it a horrible map to play on, but since they've made some changes, I think it's honestly one of my favorite maps. That's not the entire point though. In the case of Hammerfall and Storm Chaser Cove, I feel like that we've had the maps out long enough to essentially say, hey, you guys have altered the map vibe to feel like a great map to play on, but when is it going to be finalized and polished? I think this could be a real problem with the shell maps in the future as well. Sure, they can release more of them so we have more maps to play on and give feedback, but we need a timeline on when these shell maps are going to be polished and finalized. I don't want to play a map that came out 6 months ago that looks low effort with nothing done to change that. A lot of AAA games today release like this, and it's not something we should support. I know the shell map issue isn't a big deal to the whole player base as long as we can continue to receive new maps, but it is to some, and I think it's a realistic complaint. People aren't going to come try Ballistic over games such as Valorant or CSGO if they see it's just a bunch of unfinished maps. We need to start getting timelines from the devs when we can expect a map to be fully complete in development. I believe another big issue that continues to plague the gameplay of Ballistic is the lack of sidearms. Until recently, we didn't have any options for sidearms. All we had was the standard pistol for the longest time. Since the last update, we at least have the ability to use the hand cannon as our sidearm weapon rather than as our primary weapon. As I'm recording this video, we're currently stuck with the Star Wars blaster for our sidearm weapon. And with that said, the only other option for sidearms that exist are the standard pistol and hand cannon. There is nothing else to spice up the gameplay. I even said this in my original Ballistic review video months ago that the mode needs sidearms, yet here we are with no options. Now, I did originally suggest at least letting us use the hand cannon as a sidearm, which we can do now, which is great, but it's not enough. I want to be able to use an AR as my primary weapon and still have like a shotgun as my sidearm, kind of like you can in Valorant. They have the shorty shotgun, I believe, that you can use as a sidearm while still having an AR as your primary, which made so many more plays possible in the game. Fortnite has a huge arsenal of past weapons from past chapters and seasons that they can convert to Ballistic, whether it's for a primary weapon or sidearm slot. This is something they can and should do to keep the game fresh and evolving. Before I get into the last issue, I wanted to take a moment to tell you to subscribe for more awesome content coming throughout the summer. I want to try and hit 3,000 subs before the end of the summer and would greatly appreciate the support. While the issues I mentioned before are some big issues and need to be addressed if Ballistic wants to try and compete with other games, it's not the biggest issue at hand. I genuinely believe if we don't address this issue, Ballistic may not even make it another year and end up like Rocket Racing. The issue I'm talking about is the identity of Ballistic. What makes it stand out above the other games similar to it? CSGO is the founding father of the search and destroy genre in my eyes. Valorant made its own unique twist with each character having unique abilities that only they can use. What about Ballistic? Sure, we have gadgets which only one person per match can use. You can also wear whatever skin you want as long as you own it in your Fortnite locker. That's cool, but none of that is game changing. The maps don't even quite set it apart from other games. They look cool, but they don't have that unique feel to it. Something is missing from the mode, and it really is just its identity if you really sit down and think about it. I know this is a little off topic, but part of what made Reload a successful game mode when it launched was it was a fun concept that had been seen before in other games, but it had the unique Fortnite twist to it. We had iconic Fortnite POIs like Tilted Towers, Pleasant Park, Paradise Palms, and more in it. The loot pool is also so unique in the mode as it has so many different weapons and items from different eras of Fortnite, and Ballistic doesn't quite have that unique feeling to it that lets it stand apart from the competition. It doesn't have super unique maps that have the Fortnite feel we love. It doesn't have the most interesting loot pool in the world. It just kind of exists. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I truly do love the mode and think it can succeed, but not in the direction it's currently going. To simply put it, we need more updates to continue polishing the mode and its mechanics. We need to finish shell maps, add more fun and unique items such as sidearms, and we need to start figuring out the identity of Ballistic. Give us Fortnite BR inspired maps, weapons, and whatever else the devs think will be a fun addition to the game. With all that said, leave a comment below on what you think needs to change in Ballistic so it can thrive in the future. I want to read your thoughts and possibly make a video discussing what you guys think. Make sure to use code TwistedYeti in the item shop, and thank you to the channel members for supporting the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one.